1. This 1930 picture shows us psychiatric patients standing outside their rooms in Kentucky's Hopkinsville Insane Asylum. But the scary part is that they all wear normal clothes with their own rooms. However, their treatments weren't always humane. 2. This image is from 1856, and it is one of the earliest photos to depict a phrenologist at work. What's phrenology? It is the basis of what people consider the foundation of modern psychiatry and neurology. This image speaks 1,000 words just looking at it. 3. Many soldiers in the American Civil War suffered head injuries that resulted in mental disorders. This is a 21-year-old corporal who was shot in the head in the Battle of Farmville, 1865, and according to his physician, he has many symptoms of disturbance to the brain. 4. This horrific photo is from the 1860s, showing us a ward for non-violent women at the West Riding Asylum in Wakefield, England. Most of these patients had terminal dementia. 5. This image is taken from the 1872 book by Charles Darwin called The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animals, and it described how this man's muscle contractions display terror and great mental issues. 6. This is a photo from a mental asylum center of cranial capacity research. Pretty creepy, if I say so. 7. In the past, scientists thought that they could determine intelligence, human ability, and even criminality by measuring the skull. A German neuropsychiatrist took the image. 8. An Argentinian physician, doctor, takes this image. F. Perez, showing a section of an executed criminal's brain. 9. This photograph is the first patient to appear in the journal Revue Photographique and was reported to have hysterical contracture. Her problems began when she was 34. 10. This image is of an anorexic patient in the 19th century and shows how people were with eating disorders. This was visceral hysteric anorexia, which gradually gave up eating until she developed cachexia. 11. In mental asylums, restraints and other devices were used to protect patients from harming others, or even themselves. This is a photo of a 1840s Utica crib, which was made out of carved wood. Patients would be forced to sleep in it for extended periods until the regulation began. 12. If someone was violent back in the days, they would be put on this chair to be controlled and get rid of their violence. It was used in the early 20th century. 13. These were the tools used in mental asylums on patients who were rather problematic. 14. This 20th century image shows a class of deteriorated patients sewing at Utica State Hospital. 15. Dancing was a common way for asylum patients to express themselves physically in an otherwise restrained environment. By the end of 1920, social contact like dancing or some kind of sports was critical to psychiatric care. 16. This image is from the New York Mental Hospital for a sound therapy session. This method was used to add the soothing effects of music and heal mental patients. 17. In the late 1700s, Italian physician Dr. Luigi Galvani discovered that frog muscles reacted electrically when exposed to certain materials. And in the 1850s, electricity was widely used to treat psychiatric ailments, which is what we can see in the image. 18. Here, a mental asylum patient is undergoing lateral cerebral diathermia treatment in the early 1920s. 19. Another image of electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT, in Italy. This shock was given to cure or reduce the symptoms of schizophrenia and depression. 20. Suffering from mental illness? Maybe you need a physical fever. Back in 1927, Viennese psychiatrist Dr. Julius von Wagner-Jauregg won a Nobel Prize for discovering fever therapy when he cured a patient with late-stage syphilis 10 years earlier. He injected the patient with malaria-tainted blood to include the fever, and this was considered one of the first true cures that cured a psychotic disease. 21. In the mid-20th century, a patient was strapped into a polygraph machine at the government-operated Lexington Narcotics Hospital in Kentucky. Lie detectors were also a part of the patient evaluations when this image was taken in 1940. 22. This is the Willard Asylum for Chronic Insane, an abandoned place where patients have been forgotten, but their possessions still remain. 23. Look at Zelda Fitzgerald's abandoned sanatorium, a mental institution that failed to save the Jazz Age icon. Even today, it is still unchanged. 24. This is Ganjiam Psychiatric Hospital, an abandoned place where ghost stories hide the dirty truth. There are a lot of sanitation issues and other mundane problems contributing to its demise. 25. This is the Medfield State Hospital. Unlike other abandoned asylums, this empty institution welcomes visitors. Just try not to enter buildings. 26. This hospital tested the polio vaccine for decades on unwitting patients. Moreover, the historical mental hospital is nothing but ruined. You wouldn't want to go here even if you were dying from the world's worst disease. 27. This abandoned asylum was once a state-of-the-art facility before becoming one of the deadliest mental institutions in American history. It is known as the Forest Haven Asylum. 28. Look at this real-life asylum of horrors, which is now an abandoned ruin. It hides the unbreakable code to a person's insanity. 29. This abandoned house of horrors had a trial-and-error philosophy, always making the patients go through pains that they had never signed up for. It is called Several's Asylum. 30. One of the most painful-looking images from Queens, New York, is Creedmoor Psychiatric Center's Building 25. This is a long-abandoned hospital building on the outskirts of New York. 31. This is the first mental asylum from Wales. 32. This is a historic psychiatric asylum and the most filmed location in the Great White North, Columbia. 33. Look at this unique mental asylum. It is in the Bronx and is known as New York's loneliest island. 34. This is the New York City Farm Colony. At one point, it was an asylum, but now it is going to be converted into retirement housing. 35. This one doesn't even look like an asylum, but more like a torture chamber. 36. This hospital operated between 1856 and 1875 as a primary treatment center for smallpox. However, it destroyed itself. 37. Some doctors used to pour chloric acid on patients' scalps to treat ringworm and pulled back eyelids with button hooks to check for trachoma. This was the hospital where they were tortured. 38. One of the creepiest abandoned hospitals to date. This is Willard Asylum for the Chronic Insane in Ovid, New York. 39. This is an asylum where men and women, violent and non-violent patients, were also separated. It is the same Willard Asylum as we've discussed before, but just look at what it has become today. 40. This is one of the newest yet oldest mental hospitals as it discharged its last patient in 1995 and closed its doors. 41. This institution surpassed its maximum 3,000-person capacity and became overcrowded and underfunded. This was the result. 42. Look at this creepy hospital in the abandoned city of Pripyat, Ukraine, that was left behind after the Chernobyl disaster. 43. If creepiness were at an time high, it would be in the Pripyat's abandoned hospital too. Look at the cots, old chairs, and broken beds. 44. Mental hospitals were just limited to regular people. This is the Belitz Heilstätten, an abandoned military hospital in Germany that once treated Adolf Hitler. At least we know Hitler had those issues. 45. This hospital was built in the late 19th century. It was a facility for people with mental illness. Today, it's done and dusted. 46. Inside a spooky-looking abandoned hospital in Italy, this is a picture of a chair that is slowly decaying. With time, even the toughest things start to disintegrate. Today, even its walls and floors are eradicated. 47. Apparently, Italy is the spookiest place for mental asylum. Look at the beds with no mattresses and empty drawers and shelves. Everything looks odd here. 48. This is Yosemite's World War II hospital. See how people are everywhere. 49. This picture is from Nazis' medical experiments from back in the day. Patients used to go through hell. 50. Another Nazi medical experiment going on with the patient being tortured to the maximum. 51. Another poor boy is being experimented on with the Holocaust's painful experiment daily. This is one of the most painful parts of history that few people talk about. 52. These are the doctors from Nazi Germany in a hidden facility. The past didn't forgive anyone. 53. This is a syringe from a hospital in KL Auschwitz. 54. Look at the hand of a prisoner with signs of an experiment made by Dr. Emil Kaschub. He used various toxic substances to inject and see what they cause. His aim was to find methods of faking injuries among German soldiers. 55. These are children victims of Dr. Joseph Mengele's experiments. The picture was taken in a camp photo studio. 56. This is another photo taken by the members of a Soviet medical team documenting criminal experiments that were performed on the asylum members. 57. Look at this crazy mental asylum. Imagine being here as a mental patient. Life wouldn't get any worse. However, before this madness, the asylum was less eerie, and people were actually being treated here time and again. 58. Look at this hospital. It seems like something worse has happened here due to the amount of mess everywhere. There are pieces of what seem like tiles, a random chair, and a table. This is another case of what seems like an abandoned mental asylum. 59. This woman is suffering from acute melancholia. The patient is severely depressed and even has issues like loss of interest in life. These patients are highly susceptible to taking their own lives, which is why she was taken to a mental hospital. 60. This image is of another woman who has something called monomania of pride. She is a patient who thinks she's a very important person, or someone with a God complex. 61. In the early 1900s, the local prisons were almost filled to maximum capacity. To make more room, many of the worst cases were moved to the Mansfield Asylum, under the care of Dr. Strauss. Would you survive here? 62. You can see just by looking at this woman that something is definitely wrong with her. It is a form of bipolar disorder, but much worse, since the users get those issues for over 2 years without a period of remission. 63. Another patient in an asylum suffering from a form of bipolar disorder called mania of suspicion. This guy thinks that others have hidden agendas of hurting him one way or another. 64. Look at this prisoner with mental issues. He looks seriously off, and even the expressions on his face are awkward. 65. In the Dachau concentration camp presided over by Ernst Holzlohner and Sigmund Rascher, a cold water immersion experiment was conducted. Look at the victim just lying there. It's sad to look at. 66. Look at this victim, losing consciousness during a depressurization experiment at Dachau by Luftwaffe Dr. Sigmund Rascher in 1942. 67. These are some Jewish children kept alive in Auschwitz for use in Mengele's research, liberated in January 1945. And with that, our video for 67 creepiest photos from old asylums has been concluded. Which one seemed the creepiest to you? Let us know in the comments below. And do subscribe to our channel if you want to uncover more mysteries from the past.